dedicated to delivering value and exploring great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally here with Talking Books. Today, the book we're interpreting for you is called The History of Human Flight. Since ancient times, freely flying in the sky has been humanity's dream, and it appears extensively in myths and legends. In ancient times, China's classic of mountains and seas describes the country of northern rooster people. The people of this country have only one arm, but three eyes. When they travel far, they ride wind carts and can cover thousands of miles in a day. In ancient European Greek mythology, there are also descriptions of flight. The architect Daedalus and his son Icarus were imprisoned on a small island in the Aegean Sea. To escape the island, the clever Daedalus used beeswax to bind feathers together, making two pairs of wings for himself and his son. While flying over the Aegean Sea, the son Icarus flew too high, the wax melted, and he fell into the sea and died. Meanwhile, Daedalus successfully flew over the Aegean Sea. After thousands of years of effort, especially countless attempts in recent centuries, flying in the sky has finally turned from a dream into reality. Today, this book, The History of Human Flight, that we're interpreting for you, will detail how humans have step by step realized the dream of flight, flying higher and more steadily. The author of this book, Charles Dolphus, was a famous French hot air balloon and airship pilot in the first half of the 21st century. He founded the French Air Museum and served as its curator, and also was a professor in the aviation department at the French National School of Aviation. Charles Dolphus devoted his life to the study of aviation history, and this history of human flight is one of his representative works. The book was written in the 1930s with over 500,000 words, detailing countless aircraft design proposals from the era of unpowered flight to powered flight, and numerous attempts at flight. The book also includes related prints, photos, designs, and documents collected by the author Charles over 30 years. From clumsily attaching wings to imitate birds to freely soaring in airplanes, what exactly did humanity experience in conquering the sky? Next, I will tell this story through three groundbreaking flight tools. These three flight tools are the balloon, the airship, and the airplane. All right, now let's talk about the first groundbreaking flight tool. With its help, humans achieved the dream of flying to the skies. When it comes to flying, ancient people first thought of making wings like Daedalus did, flapping them like birds to soar into the sky. Many others also tried to fly into the sky using wings. Records show that in China's Western Han Dynasty, a brave man tied large bird wings to his body. He jumped from a high platform, glided for hundreds of meters, and landed safely, but such attempts were often extremely dangerous. For example, in the 11th century, an Arab named al-Dawali used self-made wooden wings to jump from a tower top, resulting in instant death. Around the same time, an English monk named Elmer also tried to jump from a spire using wings. Though he survived, he broke both legs. During the Renaissance, the famous painter Leonardo da Vinci deeply researched wing flight and drew many design sketches of ornithopters. The so-called ornithopter is a machine that flaps up and down like a bird to fly, relying on human power to flap the wings and ascend into the sky. But Da Vinci realized that humans find it hard to achieve flight just by flapping wings without external help. He left a note advising future generations to give up on this idea. Why is it so tough for humans to fly by flapping wings? This is due to the structure of the human body. Birds generally have large hearts relative to their body weight. For instance, a hummingbird's heart makes up 22% of its body weight. Such a heart beats over 500 times a minute to provide enough oxygen and energy for flight, whereas the human heart only accounts for 0.5% of body rate, and the heart rate maxes out at under 200 beats per minute, making it hard to supply enough energy for flight. Even if the human heart were powerful enough, Human muscles lack the strength to flap wings. Birds have very developed pectoral muscles. For example, a pigeon's pectoral muscles make up a quarter of its body weight.
Some have calculated that if humans had large enough wings, they'd need pectoral muscles at least 1 meter thick to flap them and fly.
Although attempts with wings failed, humans didn't give up on flying. In 1783, with the hot air balloon, people realized the dream of flying to the sky. The inventor of the hot air balloon was a Frenchman named Joseph Montgolfier. It's said he conceived the idea in front of a fireplace. He saw smoke rising from the fire, escaping through the chimney, and had a sudden inspiration. He made a small balloon with silk cloth, filled it with hot air, and sent it flying to the rooftop. Joseph immediately shared this news with his brother Etienne, and the brothers created an 11-meter diameter hot air balloon using canvas. This balloon had an opening at the bottom where a brazier heated the air inside, causing it to expand. The density of hot air inside becomes lower than outside air, allowing it to ascend using buoyancy principles. Thus, on June 4th, 1783, their hot air balloon ascended hundreds of meters in the French town of Annonay, astonishing all witnesses. News of the balloon's flight quickly reached Paris. The balloon captivated scientists from the French Academy and intrigued the king and queen. In September 1783, the Montgolfier brothers were invited to Versailles Palace to demonstrate balloon flight for King Louis XVI and the Queen. A basket hung beneath carried a sheep, a rooster, and a duck. After reaching over 500 meters, it landed safely in a meadow 3 kilometers away. French physicist Pilatre de Rosier was first to arrive. He found the animals alive and well after landing. He volunteered the next month to fly in the Montgolfier's balloon, becoming the first human to ascend in one. His first flight reached 20 meters, lasting just 4 minutes 25 seconds. Growing bolder, he mastered altitude control by adjusting the brazier's flame. On his third flight with the Marquis d'Arlandes, they rose 100 meters. They drifted over Paris for 25 minutes before landing safely 10 kilometers away. Soon after, French physicist Jacques Charles invented the hydrogen balloon. Unlike open-bottom hot air balloons, this sealed sphere used lighter-than-air hydrogen for lift without fire. Compared to fuel-dependent hot air balloons, hydrogen versions were more stable and suitable for extended flights. In December 1783, Charles flew his hydrogen balloon multiple times, once lightening the basket. The balloon rapidly ascended to 2,700 meters, where extreme cold and breathing difficulties forced him to vent hydrogen for a safe descent. This incident made people realize manned balloon flights have altitude limits.
The following year, balloons ascended across France, becoming fashionable. Many French eagerly tried this novelty.
The thrill of overlooking Earth from above made balloon motifs the trendiest decor among French nobility. They appeared on tableware, vases, fabrics, book covers. Even gold watches and clocks were shaped like balloons. Poets and playwrights created balloon-themed works, while French fairs featured flight displays to attract crowds. By January 1785, Frenchman Blanchard and American Jeffries crossed the English Channel via hot air balloon, achieving long-distance directional flight. This journey relied on northwest winds. The pilots waited half a day in Dover, England for strong gusts. Their equipment was minimal: 3 bags of ballast containing pamphlets, 2 anchors, life jackets, food, and warm clothes. Initially smooth, a possible leak caused descent toward the sea. They jettisoned nearly everything, including clothes, to stay aloft. After 2.5 hours, they landed safely in Calais, France. This success popularized balloons across Europe. Many women joined flying, like Madame Blanchard, who took up ballooning soon after marrying Blanchard in 1804. And even after her husband's death, she performed across France, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and Italy. To enhance spectacle, she often launched fireworks during flights. On July 6, 1819, fireworks ignited Madame Blanchard's balloon, causing a fatal crash. She became one of flight's earliest martyrs. Balloons fulfilled humanity's flight dream while proving militarily useful. In 1793, 10 years after the first flight, France deployed hydrogen balloons for military reconnaissance, establishing the first balloon corps. Thanks to reconnaissance by balloon pilots, the French army achieved a great victory in the 1794 war against Austria. Over half a century later, during the Franco-Prussian War, hydrogen balloons again aided France in 1870. France was defeated, and Prussian troops tightly encircled Paris. Parisians used balloons to send letters beyond the siege, maintaining outside communication and breaking the information blockade. That concludes our first flight tool, balloons. In 1783, hot air and hydrogen balloons were invented in France, finally lifting people skyward and launching the balloon era. But people soon recognized the drawbacks of hot air and hydrogen balloons. Though easy to ascend, they couldn't be steered. To fly from one specific place to another, you had to rely on wind. Like that English Channel crossing we mentioned, which required waiting for strong northwest winds.
So, could people gain free control over flight direction?
Innovative breakthrough. Inventors improved hydrogen balloons, leading to the airship's birth. Now let's discuss the second groundbreaking flight tool, the airship. Actually, airship concepts emerged shortly after balloons were invented. A French officer named Moisnier designed an airship, replacing the spherical hydrogen envelope with an elliptical one to reduce horizontal drag. He designed stabilizing devices for smoother flight.
He also added human-powered propellers, essentially bicycle-driven rotating blades, allowing airship piloting like cycling.
Sadly, lack of funding prevented him from building a prototype. Many later designed airships following Meissner's concept, but struggled to achieve flight. And
the main issue was human-powered propulsion being too weak against strong air currents.
it couldn't provide enough thrust for horizontal movement. But Europe's Industrial Revolution solved this challenge. By the mid-19th century, machine-powered airships finally flew. Frenchman Henri Giffard achieved this in 1852 with the 44-meter spindle-shaped airship that flew 22 kilometers. This airship's spindle-shaped envelope was filled with hydrogen, with a 150-kilogram steam engine in the gondola. Carrying 60 kilograms of coal and water at takeoff, it could drive a 3-bladed propeller. The propeller blades were enormous, each with a diameter of 3.4 meters. Propelled by these massive blades, the airship advanced rapidly through the air.
However, such airships had a serious flaw. Carrying heavy machinery required enormous envelopes.
For example, Giffard's airship envelope reached 2,500 cubic meters, about the size of a small palace hall. These airships struggled at high altitudes, since decreasing atmospheric pressure caused envelope expansion and rupture risk. Thus, they needed venting systems to release gas, making long-distance continuous flight difficult. German Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin solved this during the late 19th century, Second Industrial Revolution. With mass-produced aluminum alloy, he conceived the rigid airship. What is Zeppelin envisioned rigid airships using non-deformable materials like aluminum alloy, enabling flights above 1,000 meters without expansion issues. In 1898, Zeppelin established the Society for the Promotion of Airship Flight to fund rigid airship construction. By 1900, the Zeppelin LZ-1 airship was completed. The LZ-1 featured a conical nose. Its cylindrical body measured 128 meters long, with an aluminum envelope divided into 17 compartments. Each compartment stored hydrogen. Leakage in one wouldn't compromise the entire airship. Zeppelin equipped this rigid airship with 2 gasoline engines. German engineer Gottlieb Daimler had recently invented the gasoline engine. Soon, this not only boosted Germany's auto industry, but also positioned German airship manufacturing as world-leading. Zeppelin subsequently built models LZ-2 through LZ-9 and founded Delag, German Airship Transportation Company.
This became the world's first civilian airline.
In 1910, the company launched the world's first scheduled air route between Frankfurt and Dusseldorf in Germany. This route was about 400 kilometers, with the Zeppelin LZ-7 performing the inaugural flight. It could carry over 20 passengers, flying at about 70 kilometers per hour, completing the journey in half a day, making it an extremely popular sightseeing route. After Zeppelin's death, his partner Eckener didn't abandon airship construction. In 1927, he built a larger rigid airship measuring 237 meters. To commemorate Zeppelin, it was named Graf Zeppelin. This behemoth had 5 engines reaching maximum speeds of 193 kilometers per hour. In 1929, Graf Zeppelin departed from the U.S., passing through Germany, Soviet Union, China, Japan, and others, circumnavigating the globe in 22 days.
This success sparked a worldwide airship craze, with the US, UK, France, Italy, Soviet Union mass-producing them, marking a golden age of airships.
Yet this golden age proved fleeting, as subsequent accidents soon made airships vanish. Since airships first flew, hydrogen combustion and explosion accidents occurred repeatedly. Among these, the 1937 Hindenburg disaster dealt the deadliest blow to the industry. German-built Hindenburg first flew in March 1936, representing airship manufacturing's pinnacle. After completion, it primarily operated transatlantic passenger routes between Europe, America, and Europe-South America. Its lavishly designed cabins rivaled luxury cruise ships, making it highly sought after with months-long booking wait lists. But on May 6, 1937, while landing at Lakehurst Naval Station after a transatlantic flight, it crashed into a mooring mast, exploding and burning 34 people alive, with many severely injured. Investigations confirmed hydrogen caused the disaster. Replacing flammable hydrogen with non-flammable helium was the only safety solution. America was then the only mass helium producer. With 2012 looming, U.S. export bans to Germany halted advanced German airship production, while other nations stalled under the accident's shadow. Airships gradually vanished from the sky. So that concludes the second flight tool. In the mid-19th century, humans entered the airship era. By the 1920s and 1930s, it flourished immensely, but accidents gradually pushed airships off the stage of the sky. However, aircraft manufacturing technology continued to advance during this time. When it comes to airplanes, the most well-known are the American Wright Brothers, inventors of the airplane. In 1903, they achieved the first human flight by piloting an aircraft. But before that, countless pioneers made various efforts and attempts to get airplanes successfully into the sky. Next, we'll discuss the third groundbreaking flight tool in this book. Unlike the balloons and airships discussed earlier, which fly because they're filled with gases lighter than air, airplanes are different. They're heavier than air. As we mentioned earlier, humans struggled to fly by flapping wings, but the Chinese invention of kites gave Europeans inspiration. Instead of flapping wings like birds, fixed wings could also enable flight. Making large enough kites could potentially carry people into the sky. After Da Vinci in the early 19th century, Englishman George Cayley made significant contributions to the invention of the airplane. George Cayley first proposed that humans could fly using wings, but with a fixed angle, relying on lift from airflow to overcome drag, the basic principle of modern airplanes. Therefore, George Cayley is also known as the father of aviation. George Cayley wasn't just a theorist. He personally attempted to build airplanes. The aircraft he built were called gliders because they could only glide in the air, lacking horizontal propulsion. So, Cayley lived in the steam engine era. Installing heavy steam engines on airplanes was clearly impractical. As early as 1809, he successfully built a glider. This glider briefly lifted him off the ground, flying a few meters. In 1847, at age 74, George Cayley still hadn't stopped building gliders. He made a larger one and had his coachman attempt to fly it. Reportedly, the glider flew hundreds of meters with the aid of rope towing. Besides Britain's George Cayley, another major contributor to airplane invention was German Otto Lilienthal. Starting from studying the shape and structure of bird wings, he derived crucial data. He wrote Bird Flight as the basis of aviation, considered a classic in aviation history. He also built various gliders and personally test flew them. In 1896, Lilienthal was fatally injured during a test flight crash caused by strong winds. And his last words were, "Sacrifices must be made to achieve flight." History proved Lilienthal's sacrifice wasn't in vain. 7 years after his sacrifice, America's Wright Brothers flew the first true airplane into the sky. We call it a true airplane because it could ascend on updrafts like gliders, but also had propulsion for sustained forward flight. Elder brother Wilbur Wright and younger Orville Wright never attended college. Before inventing airplanes, they repaired bicycles professionally. In the late 19th century, gasoline engines combined with gliders sparked an airplane-building craze across Europe and America. The Wrights joined this pursuit. In 1900, they successfully built their first glider. By 1902, their improved glider had become highly advanced. After thousands of wing modifications, it handled various airflows with excellent performance. They then attempted to add propulsion to transform it into a true airplane.
Available piston engines were bulky automotive units weighing over 100 kilograms.
Too heavy for their aircraft, so they built their own. In 1903, after 6 weeks' work, they created a 70-kilogram engine and built the Flyer 1, the first airplane. On December 17, 1903, the Flyer I's first successful flight occurred on a North Carolina beach. Despite notices, only 5 spectators attended. Since the Flyer I could only carry one person, the brothers flipped a coin to decide that younger brother Orville would fly first. As the engine roared to life, the Flyer I taxied and lifted into the air. The Wright brothers' Flyer I differed significantly from modern aircraft. First, while modern planes use alloy materials, the Wrights' aircraft was primarily spruce wood. Unlike modern monoplanes, it featured a wooden biplane wing design. Second, with its 12-meter wingspan, the plane was rudimentary except for those large wings. The pilot even had to lie prone on the lower wing to operate the controls. Third, its flight duration was extremely limited. The Flyer I stayed airborne just 12 seconds, covering barely 30 meters. Without wheels underneath, the Wrights installed skis for beach landings to prevent damage. Despite its brevity, this moment was permanently etched in human history because this flight met 3 critical criteria. First, it was powered flight. Second, it was sustained, stable, and controllable flight.
Finally, and crucially, it was a heavier-than-air flying machine.
Subsequent aircraft were continuous improvements upon the Wright brothers' design. In 1909, Frenchman Louis Blériot first crossed the English Channel by plane, enabling long-distance flight. Compared to airships, planes were smaller, faster, and more agile, leading military strategists worldwide to consider their wartime applications. For example, in 1911, renowned British military aviation theorist Capper wrote Aircraft in Warfare, discussing air combat tactics, theories tested during W1. With air forces emerging, fighter planes became among warfare's most effective weapons. Aircraft served not only for reconnaissance but also bombing enemy targets. Riding wartime momentum, Western nations heavily funded aircraft development. Post-WWN, planes became essential military equipment, sharing skies with airships. However, they initially had distinct roles. Airships primarily served civilian passenger transport, while airplanes were used more in military applications. And yet, with continuous improvements in aircraft technology, lower costs and faster speeds allowed airplanes to emerge in civilian transportation. In 1919, Germany, France, Britain, and others established their own civilian airlines and opened regular flight routes. Coxton-Bergley, that same year, the U.S. established fixed routes between its east and west coasts for mail delivery.
By 1927, American Charles Lindbergh flew nonstop from New York to Paris, across the Atlantic, 33 hours, covering over 6,000 kilometers, marking humanity's first nonstop transoceanic flight.
This proved airplanes weren't disadvantaged for long-haul flights versus airships. While airships required over 2 days, planes needed just 33 hours, showing clear speed superiority. To Tom cut Tom, by the 1930s, America developed all-metal aircraft which, though costlier than early wooden planes, were sturdier and safer. Pressurized cabins resisted thin, cold air, enabling flights above 10,000 meters at greater speeds. During this period, civilian airlines like Boeing emerged, gradually developing America's passenger aviation industry. Coupled with the 1937 Hindenburg disaster we mentioned earlier, the final blow to airships, planes quickly filled civil aviation's void, becoming the primary aerial transport. That concludes the third groundbreaking flight tool, the airplane. With the Wright Brothers' invention, the 20th century ushered in the airplane era, finally harnessing wings to help humans fly better through skies. Charles Dolphus's History of Human Flight was written in the late 1930s, precisely when planes became humanity's main aerial transport. Afterwards, aircraft advanced rapidly, with WIY becoming another catalyst for development. Turbojet engines replaced piston engines, providing stronger thrust. In 1947, aircraft first broke the sound barrier. Today's fastest planes approach 10 times sonic speed, while space shuttles exit the atmosphere carrying humans into space, and will fly farther still. As the American space expert Robert Goddard once said, "It's hard to say there's anything impossible to achieve, because yesterday's dreams can become today's hopes and tomorrow's reality." All right, that concludes our interpretation of The History of Human Flight. You'll find reading notes below the audio. Until next time.